Awaken your body's health potential. From stress to chronic pain, Qigong and Tai Chi can maximize your well-being. Discover how with Sharon Smith, an authentic master with 45 years of wisdom to share with us today. Welcome to WellWave Now. This is your portal for actionable wellness insights and meet your empowerment team. First, there's Breck Rice, the healthcare disruptor and decoder of medication complexity, also an expert in community and integrative wellness. We have Dr. Bob Levine, unable to join us today due to leading a conference in Michigan, but Bob is a renowned brain researcher as well as a leader in drug-free relief of pain. So then I'm Tim Daniels. I'm your wellness plan manager. I'm the builder of wellness approaches that are as unique as you are to help you optimize your wellness. And I carry with me and bring into that an expertise in pulsar electromagnetic field therapy. Together, we are your wellness catalysts, and we're committed to elevating your health, enhancing your functionality, and optimizing your performance at every stage of life. Our objective is to provide you with innovative insights and strategies to boost your happiness, unlock your body's full potential. We're WellWave Now, where timeless wisdom lights your wellness path. Today, as Breck mentioned, we have our pleasure of a guest panelist, and that is Sharon Smith. And Sharon is, as mentioned, is an authentic master of Qigong and Tai Chi with 45 years of practice and 40 years of teaching. She's learned from such well-renowned and worldwide masters as Mantak Chia and Li Junfeng. Sharon is certified as a senior instructor in the Universal Healing Tao system. Her global leadership in this area kind of shines through the fact that she has hosted and hosts global Qigong summits. She teaches at prestigious schools around the world, and she is a founder and creator of what's known as the Immortal Sisters Qigong conferences. She has a unique gift in translating this ancient wisdom into modern well-being strategies. Today, she'll share with us how Qigong and Tai Chi can unlock your body's innate healing potential and maximize your health. So, all right. So welcome, Sharon.
Hi.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here on the podcast. You know, this is an area that I don't know that much about, so I'm excited to learn. I'll be as much of a student today as anyone else that's joining. There's probably people here joining that know a lot more about this topic than myself. I know Tim is a little more schooled in this area and personally has practiced and trained at least in Tai Chi, but I'm really interested to learn more about the differences of the two and some of the benefits that the health benefits, of course, that you would get from practicing Tai Chi and Qigong.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me onto this amazing platform. I really admire what you're doing in bringing some more knowledge to people's understanding of the interface between science and all of these amazing forms of physical cultivation. And, you know, a lot of people want to do something that is a mind-body practice. And in our culture, in the United States particularly, when you think of mind-body practice, the first thing that you think of is yoga. Mm-hmm. And yoga has been proliferating in the West very strongly for a long time. I've practiced yoga. I've studied yoga in India many times at the Iyengar Institute. I think yoga is a great practice. However, it's not for everybody. And many people go to yoga and they get discouraged because they're stiff. They feel like they could hurt themselves. They have all kinds of things that come up. And I think right now we're reaching a kind of inflection point where people are more interested in more gentle forms of physical cultivation. And Tai Chi and Qigong have a long, long history of being really the ideal form of physical cultivation, because both of these practices work with the physical body, the energetic body, and the mind. You know, Tai Chi is known as meditation in motion. I think Harvard Medical School coined this term of meditation in motion. And, you know, what I love about Tai Chi and what I love about teaching is that most anybody can practice Tai Chi or Qigong. It's not, you don't have to be young, you don't have to be hyper flexible, you don't have to go to the gym, you don't need special clothes, you don't need special shoes. You know, it's nice to have good shoes for sure and comfortable clothes, but there's not a lot of external support that you need in order to get involved in practicing. And there's a lot of confusion, I think, between the you know, the purposes and the differences between Tai Chi and Qigong. And the way that I like to describe it is that Tai Chi is a combination of Qigong and martial art, particularly self-defense. Qigong is a term that encompasses a lot of physical cultivation exercises. The actual term means life force training. The word Gong means skill or training, or you could say the skillful use of your life force. That's what Qi is. And one of my teachers, Li Junfeng, he also pointed out that Qigong is energy exchange. The Gong is actually the exchange. So practitioners of Qigong are exchanging energy with the universe. How do we do that? We do that through breathing, basically, and a kind of mindfulness. You know, the focus of the mind directs the Qi to flow. And if you're focusing on your breathing, for instance, you are having that energetic exchange with the universe. You're taking in the fresh, clean, healing energy of the universe. You're exhaling whatever might be cloudy, stagnant, congested. And this
before you move on, let me just interject there. I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was last episode of the podcast was about breathing techniques and all of the health benefits. I'd love for you to touch on just the basic benefits that you have seen people be able to get just from these two practices. What are some of those basic benefits that practitioners would realize?
Well, one of the most important ones is stress management. We live in a highly stressful world, and some of the stress is internal. You know, we create our own stress. Some of it is external. You know, there's a lot of electromagnetic energy out there that's affecting us. There's pollution, whether it's noise pollution or air pollution. There's pesticides in the food supply. I mean, there's a lot of things that cause internal stress. And I just find for myself and for the students who I work with that these practices really help alleviate stress in very particular ways. They act on the nervous system, they act on the vagus nerve particularly. They also help people who have blood pressure problems. In fact, that's one of the most interesting studies that's come out recently. I think it came out in February, and they discovered that Tai Chi and Qigong are better at lowering blood pressure than aerobic exercise. And
Wow.
this is amazing because so many people don't get any aerobic exercise whatsoever. But if they would practice a very gentle form of movement in coordination with breathing, with mindfulness,
Yeah.
with all kinds of other ways of connecting with yourself, that lowers blood pressure. How
That
fantastic
is
is
that is
that?
so amazing. So amazing. So are there differences between the benefits that you would get from Tai Chi versus Qigong, or are they very
So, there's so many different styles of Tai Chi and so many different styles of Qigong that it's impossible, I think, to study all of them and to see what their particular benefits are. But I would say that most of them have some things in common, and that is conscious breathing connected to movement, mindfulness, alignment, and what you would call meditation. I mean, all of that is meditation, but there are often certain pathways that you focus on if you're doing a particular practice, whether it's sitting or standing or moving or even a lying down Qigong practice. There are actually lying down Qigong practices which have to do with energetic movement. Mhm.
wow. Tim, isn't there some research that you've recently looked at on this topic?
Yeah, a couple of things I saw I'm interested in talking to Sharon about. And as we get into that, Sharon, I think, a couple of things, mindfulness is used a lot these days. And so I'm wondering in this context, before we go on to that question, if you could just kind of tell people what you mean by mindfulness in this context and also the alignment that you brought up there.
Uh-huh. So, what I mean by mindfulness, Tim, is concentrating on every aspect of movement or breath. So, in the most simple way, if I'm teaching a Tai Chi form, I teach a 13 movement form for beginners. I'm very focused on my students understanding, for instance, how to shift their weight, where to put your heel, how your foot goes down, how you take the energy out of one leg, where you, in Tai Chi, we say that leg is full. You want to take that full energy and you transfer it into another leg. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean by mindful movement. Like, how do you lift your arms up? Can you relax your hands from the wrist? Are you raising your hands with stiff fingers? It's like, sometimes I say, it's like if you take a tea bag and you put it in hot water, and then the herbal aspect of the tea infuses the water. You want your mind to do that in your practice. You want your mind to infuse your whole body with awareness. And that's what I call mindful movement. In terms of alignment, our education system has screwed up a lot of people's alignment, right? People are like this, or they're looking at their phones all the time with their head down. The crown of their head is not connected to whatever might be up there. You can call it heaven, you can call it the energy of the universe, you can call it the sky. When we have that connection, even if you might not believe in it, really. But the idea is that you have something that's pulling the crown of your head up, and the crown center is lined up with your perineum. There is an energy channel there. This is another aspect of Qigong practice in particular, is that it has a relationship to traditional Chinese medical principles. So there are energy channels in the body, and the practice of Qigong helps people open up those energy channels so that there is an internal flow. And if you are in alignment with the force of nature, my colleague and friend Daisy Lee calls it, if you're in vertical alignment, you have that connection because gravity is working with you as opposed to against you. Okay. So in these practices, you start to pay attention to those things, and then over time, your body begins to change.
Sure. Yep. So I appreciate that. Appreciate that clarification. And, you know, I think as you and I were chatting as we got to know a little bit about each other, you know, I'm a conservative, although I live on the East Coast now, I'm a conservative Nebraskan. So a lot of these concepts when I first came across them were kind of woo-woo and voodoo to me. But as I studied the martial arts, the three, and as we talk about, I always studied from the standpoint of truly having been a wrestler, a boxer, the movement, it was truly the martial aspects. So that's why this is very good for me to get into and understand, you know, from you. But that sort of thing you talked about, then athletes can understand whether that connection, that flow, that understand how you full body awareness, allow your body to respond and to flow with the energy in it. That kind of comes out. I think anybody who's, you know, Breck's been run a lot of marathons and done some other things. You get into that awareness of the body and how things happen in there. So that's good. But then as Breck brought us back to earlier, you talked to the help with the stress and the relaxation and the blood pressure, and then even blood pressure. I think that people can readily identify with. But and say yes, what they know of Tai Chi and what you've talked about so far, they can. But there seems to be a number of other benefits on the health that love to talk to you about. That it seems that and medical evidence and medical research is pointing to as well.
So I think the other really interesting study that has come out in the past year, and a lot of this information was made available by a symposium that the Harvard Medical School did last year. It was a symposium on whole body health. And there was a lot of very interesting studies which were presented at that symposium. And one of the ones that I found fascinating is Tai Chi's effect on slowing down dementia. Okay, a lot of people think Tai Chi is just a physical thing, but actually all of these aspects of it that I just mentioned contribute to what they call executive function. You know, executive function, you guys know all about this, but it's the ability of the mind to make tiny little decisions all the time. And Tai Chi increases that. And there was this study, it was done in Oregon. And let's see, I took some notes on this. They gave this test, it's called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment Test. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it is a test about memory. And people who score from 18 to 25 on this test evidently have mild cognitive impairment. And they took a group of these people, I think it was 300 people, and for 6 months, they practiced Tai Chi, a certain kind of Tai Chi, twice a week. And they improved their scores by 1.5 points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that is the equivalent of slowing down decline like 3 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen this in my own students. I mean, they don't, they haven't been tested, but I see the ability to concentrate, to focus. This prevents falls. This is a big thing as people get older. Falls are one of the most uh, 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 critical injuries for elderly people. The falls affect people in so many different ways. There's the injury itself, there's the fear of falling, which causes some people to stay home alone all the time, the emotional isolation. There's so many repercussions from falls. And Tai Chi has such a good effect on that. There are a lot of those kind of studies out there.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
this
Yep.
mental part is new.
Yep. So that's fantastic. I ran a home care agency for the elderly. It operated in 3 states and had a specialization in Alzheimer's dementia care. And so seeing that impact on the person and the family and be able to slow that and have impact on that is just that's a high impact item. And your thing on your comment on falls, I also applaud. That is this kept it as one of the things we always try to maintain is to help that fall risk. And truly, at a certain age, sometimes when they fall, they break the hip and they have a hard time coming back from that. You can hit your head and damage it, and that's just that fear. And creating that social isolation is also key on that. But along that lines on the fall, and sometimes they saw that people did not recover from that. I think, what do you think about Tai Chi and Qigong in terms of helping with bone density and pain management and arthritis?
Oh, yeah, big time. There are a bunch of studies about bone density in postmenopausal women. Actually, on my website, I have a page of benefits with links to a bunch of these studies. My website is taosharon, TAOSHARON.com. And the menu at the top, there's one menu item, which is benefits of Tai Chi, Qigong, and meditation. And the bone density thing is big because when you practice Tai Chi and Qigong, you're doing a weight-bearing exercise, but you're using your own body weight on your own bones. This is really useful. And there are also particular Qigong practices which have to do with building the bones and the bone marrow. And for myself, this was a really important thing for me personally because I have osteoporosis in my family. My mother, all her sisters, they shrunk. And as much as I was doing in my mid-50s, I was diagnosed with osteopenia. And I started really more seriously doing the bone marrow Qigong practices, which involve meditation, tapping your bones with a metal hitter. I also used a power plate vibration machine, and I did Qigong on that. And I increased my bone density like 7.5%.
Wow.
And and then that was that. I'm great now.
Okay.
But this heaviness of like just experiencing your own body weight in the practice is very useful.
Great, beautiful.
Tell us some of the ways that you could measure the outcomes. So you've talked about bone density and improving that, but you did a lot of things, including practicing of Tai Chi and Qigong. What are some other ways of measuring or ways that you can relate these practices to preventative health?
Well, a really easy way is people with high blood pressure. They often have one of these blood pressure cuffs around. Just start to pay attention to what kind of readings you're getting, like before you practice, after you practice, once a week when you get up in the morning, after you've, started to build a practice. These are very simple ways of measuring that a lot of people have right in their homes.
Yeah.
The other thing is, of course, for alleviation of pain, it's pretty easy to know when you're in pain and when you're not in pain. So there's that. There's also, they don't have a real way of measuring people's energy or chi, but you can recognize yourself when you have more energy.
Yeah.
It's not so hard. You just realize one day, oh wow, I got a lot done today. How'd that happen? I'm usually such a slug. I don't really do all of that. I think if you engage in if you seriously engage in a practice like this, you should see results in your test scores. You'll see them.
Okay.
When you say test score, Sharon, you mean like
like your blood work and your, all of the regular things that the medical people do.
Right.
It's possible that you're going to see changes in those things.
Absolutely.
And usually, though, I would say, like my story of my own bone density, most people who go on a path like this are doing a lot of different things. Like they might be taking the supplement that you just mentioned, the Shilajit. They might be taking, senolytics, cleaning out their cell. I mean, it's very hard sometimes to isolate what's doing what. But one thing I do know from my own practice of Tai Chi, I started when I was 27. I was 27. I'm now 73. I'm in a lot better shape than a lot of people in my age group in terms of energy and, just physical competence. I think that that decision to, and I don't know really why I think I was just ready to do something. It could have been something else, but it happened to be Tai Chi, and I walked into the Tai Chi studio. I started the class, and it was like, wow, this is great. This is just what I need. And there I was committed. I wasn't shopping. That was a time when there was no internet. You had to look for things. I mean, even though I live in New York City and there's a lot going on, you still have to find the stuff. It wasn't so easy in those days. But I think that decision kind of steered me 15 degrees in a better direction. That's all I can say. Just that, getting in touch with myself like that, feeling my own body from the inside, connecting to my own vitality, that led to a lot better decision making. And
what you're touching on a little bit there, and we want, we usually like to go here about a half hour and then get into some questions. We want to get some things, but there's still some points we want to make with you here. So I'll ask our audience and our replay people to bear with us a little bit in this main tent part here, because I think you're getting into a very important area, which is what I consider kind of the preventative health part. And you talked a little bit about that earlier with the elderly in terms of mobility and balance and help with things of that nature. You talked about the blood pressure lowering, which can help, and changes in a lot of the blood markers and the test. But is there anything else you'd like to highlight? Because we've talked about, so you've talked about a lot, the pain management, the repair through bone density, the effect on even dementia. So those are kind of recuperative and healing aspects. Anything else you'd like to talk about in terms of the preventative aspects and realm from of Qigong and Tai Chi?
Well, that's I can just say that I think that when you are engaged in a practice like this, where you're meditating on your own energy daily, and when I say meditating on your own energy, you could be doing that in movement, you could be sitting, you could be, like there's some Qigong I do before I get out of bed every day. Like that's something I do internally, to prepare myself for the day. I think that all of that is preventative. I think our culture is looking for the fix.
Yeah.
There's even people who are now marketing Tai Chi. They market Tai Chi for arthritis, Tai Chi for blood pressure, Tai Chi for this, Tai Chi for that. To me, it's missing the point in a way.
Yeah, you'll get me on my soapbox when you start talking about people looking for the quick fix, right? And that's why so many people go to medication, because they want a medicine to fix their problems, when so many things can be, fixed on actually taking some responsibility for yourself. I mean, I've got a whole following of people that follow me on social because of my scary drug facts, simply just listing off the side effects that no one told them about, but they're all experiencing them, right?
Sure.
And then, you have this whole opioid crisis because of people trying to get out of pain by taking a medication and becoming addicted to it. So, Sharon, one of my board members is an addiction recovery physician, and I've heard something about these practices being able to help addiction recovery. Can you elaborate more on that?
Well, I know a guy who he's in Canada. His name is Doug Hilton, and he wrote a book with one of my teachers, Montauk Chia, on EMDR, and a practice that's actually probably one of the most popular Qigong practices in the world. It's called the Six Healing Sounds. And he used EMDR with people who were addicted to gambling. Not exactly the same thing. They weren't addicted to opioids, but people addicted to gambling. And he's a psychologist, and he combined this practice, EMDR. I don't know if you know what it is. It's rapid eye movement.
Mhm.
And he and my teacher, Montauk Chia, they kind of created something with the Six Healing Sounds and EMDR for people who had this gambling addiction. And, you know, it's conceivable. I have not worked with people in that particular situation, so I can't really speak to it. But ideally, I think probably it could help people,
Yeah.
even if it's like in the moment, you know. I mean, I knew somebody who, in terms of pain, he fell off, or he was he knew Qigong, he knew Tai Chi. He fell off a roof. He was, doing carpentry work on the roof. He fell off the roof. He was in the hospital. He asked Montauk Chia, like, what kind of practice can I do while I'm in the hospital? And he said, well, the most simple thing, the inner smile. The inner smile is a way of sending love and healing to every organ and bone in your body. It's a very particular kind of way of creating this sort of stream, a cascade of really good feeling chemicals moving through your body. And, anybody in pain can use that. anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to some of the questions here, I know we're running short on time. I want to make sure that the almost 120,000 listeners reach that we have can find out how to contact you. Would you please give the best way to contact you again?
The best way to contact me is through my website, Sharon, TAOSHARON.com. And I also have another website I haven't really talked much about. I haven't talked about this one at all in this interview, but maybe I'll have an opportunity. It's the immortalsistersconference.com. And this is a website associated with a foundation that I'm starting to support women who are students, practitioners, and teachers of these practices. So we have different events. We're having a retreat in Mexico in January, and we'll be having another online event in the spring. So there are ways on both of these websites to subscribe to our newsletters. And yeah. So.
Okay, excellent. And we would invite you in return to also join the Facebook group. There's over 4,000 members of practitioners as well as people who need help. And that was the whole idea of creating the Well Wave Now Healthcare Disruptors group, was to match, professionals with those that are struggling and make sure that people get help, and not the superficial help, right, on the surface help, but actually get to the root cause of where these elements are coming from and get them corrected, not just put a Band-Aid on them.
Awesome.
Yep. So I'm glad you mentioned that too, Sharon, right? Because we'd love to have you engage there and engage with that population there and work and interact with them. Yeah. Now, and then you tying that into the sort of Immortal Sisters, who are kind of all these people who are very knowledgeable in Qigong and helping people. And we've talked about, and certainly, I know you help people directly on site in the New York City area, and you also have an ability they can look and see for you to work with them remotely. But if for some reason their schedule working with you remotely didn't work with your schedule and your availability, or they're not in that New York City area, help the people, if you would, kind of determine how they can find someone like the Immortal Sisters, a good qualified instructor, because and I'll preface that a little bit more. As with a number of things, there are a lot of people who just leap in and think they can teach, think they have the knowledge, and don't really have the depth of it. And this is so important and so key that we want to have people learn from someone who knows what they're doing. So
there are a few directories online that I would recommend. One is from the National Qigong Association. They have a directory of teachers. And then universaltaoinstructors.com. That's a directory, worldwide directory of teachers of Mantak Chia's system. Yeah, I would recommend those two directories. You can probably just like put in your city or your country, and maybe you'll be lucky and you'll find somebody.
Well, but you've given them a way to be a little more than lucky, and like you, but from a different angle. I was lucky when I found my last Sifu and teacher, a guy named Garrett G. Well, I actually started with in conjunction with his father, a guy named Peter Kim Ho Chu. And Garrett G. and Garrett's known both Grandmaster, both in Wing Tang and the Wudang system that has 5 styles of Tai Chi. But I found Garrett by accident because I was walking through, wasn't by accident, I guess by fate. I was walking through Chinatown in San Francisco on a lunch break when I was working out there. And he was out there practicing in a park there in Chinatown, which he stopped having lessons, and not that long afterward, and I just happened to run into him that day. And long story short, after I sparred with some of his students and beat them, I tried to spar against Garrett and could get nothing done. And I said, I want to learn. I want to learn. I knew I had found the real authentic thing. I was the Jew, as you know, within the Chinese martial arts, not really true ones. It's not really black belt. When you have it, you have sashes, or you're just known as a student, senior student, or instructor and master. And so I knew he was the real thing. And so I said it was time. And after sending me away a couple of times, like in the movie, he said, okay, fine, I'll give you a shot. And so we went from there. But
yeah, well, that's a really good way to find a teacher. Actually, I found one of my teachers like that.
Yeah.
I had a teacher I studied with for like 15 years who I learned 3 sword forms from, and a couple of bare hand forms. And I saw him moving in the park in Chinatown in New York City, and I thought, wow, I really like to move like that. Right. And I was with a Chinese American friend of mine, and we went up to him. We said, we'd really like to study with you. And I think he thought that I was some like dilettante, and that my Chinese American friend, that she was going to be his real student. Yeah. But she left after 2 weeks, and I was with him for 15 years.
Same. I was with Garrett for 10 years, and then a little bit off and on for a few years after that, if I came back, if I moved from West Coast to East Coast from work. But yeah, by the time I was getting on that part about the ranks, I was the equivalent of a black belt in another art, and equivalent of a black belt in another, a brown belt in another one, and could do absolutely nothing against him. And that's when I knew it was time to do something with it.
Wow.
But that is a good way to find somebody that you connect with. Yeah. That's what's called synchronicity. It's not advertising. That's what it was like way back when I found Montauk Chia in New York City in 1981. I mean, he was just a guy, who had a little office in Chinatown. And the people who came to study with him, we were like, wow, this is it. We're gonna go for this kind of practice. This is awesome. And but there was no advertising. It was all just like it was supposed to happen.
Right.
So Sharon, real quick, because we are really getting short on time here, is there anything that you can demonstrate on camera for our followers here that would show them a real quick something that would relax them? We did that with the breathing exercises last week.
Yeah, let me move some things around in here.
I'd love a demonstration. Doesn't have to be long, just some movement that might be
we could do
beneficial.
Something really let's see. I have to rearrange this. Well, you can't see my feet, but that's okay. So you want to stand with your feet shoulder width distance. Touch your tongue to your upper palate. This connects your yin and yang channel, the major highway of energy in your body. You can bend your knees just slightly, and you want to let your arms hang by your side. You can have a little space in your armpits, not really big like this, but not next to your body like this. You want to just relax. And let's rock to the front of the foot and to the back of the foot. And you'll notice my hands are going forward with my arms, and then I flex my wrist a little bit, and my palms are facing the floor. And then I'm going to add a breathing pattern. Inhale as I rock forward, exhale as I go back toward my heels. keep your knees slightly bent. Relax your fingers. Keep your tongue touching your upper palate. And feel the crown of your head being gently suspended from someplace out there in space. It could be the sun, the moon, some star out there. It could be the center of the galaxy, or it could be just a spot 3 or 4 inches above the crown of your head. So you're just going to do this really simple movement, inhaling and exhaling. Rocking to your toes, rocking to your heels. Your knees are slightly bent. A reminder to keep your tongue on your upper palate. And if we have another minute, we're going to continue this for another minute. Do we? Another minute?
Yes.
Good. So it's not a big movement, but it's a conscious movement. Rocking toward your toes, rocking toward your heels. Inhale as your arms go forward. Exhale as they go back. And then turn your palms up and inhale and gather all the beautiful chi of the universe and pour that energy through the crown of your head and let it flow down the length of your body to your perineum, flushing out any cloudy, gray, murky chi. Inhale, arms to the side. As you pour this fresh energy in, let it flush out whatever you can't use, whatever is not important at the moment. Inhale, gather. As you exhale, pour. And then you can step in, bring your hands to your navel area. We call the dantian, the field of the elixir, the field of your medicine. And maybe you've gathered some saliva by doing that practice. You want to gather it and swallow it down to your dantian, to your energy field. And you can rub your belly in both directions. And before you sit down and go back to your normal mundane awareness, you can take a moment to feel gratitude for getting here, for joining this podcast, and for any other blessings in your life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And so you got a little lesson from Real Master there, and got the Dantian meditation, chi flow in there. And I'd actually, it's been a while, I actually forgotten about a very key thing that Sharon also showed us, connecting that tongue to the palate for getting that full flow and connection, and also the swallowing of the saliva, because you've really enthused, that's really them been enthused with a lot of the chi from the body, and it's really helpful.
Right.
So great.
It's true.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I look forward to trying that. I'll definitely be watching the replay to make sure I don't miss a step. But yeah, for a novice like myself, thank you for demonstrating. I look forward to practicing.
Right. So one last question related to what Breck just mentioned there before we go there. So for someone starting out that you talk about, for the, I guess let's stay on a little bit on the health benefits, but also on the physical and the mental benefits you talked about. How often do you think someone should should do it to have the impact? Is this something that they need to do daily from the start? Can they do it a couple times a week, once a month to have benefit? What do you think, Sharon? What's your guidance?
Well, the more you do it, the more benefit you're going to get. Mm-hmm. Having said that, people are very busy. They have busy lives, but there are these moments in the day where you can do something. I call that informal practice. Like you're sitting in somebody's office, you have an appointment with somebody, you're waiting. You can put your hands on your dantian You can send energy through your body, mind, and spirit. You can gather your saliva. You can swallow it down. You can do all that.
Mhm.
That doesn't take a lot,
No.
you know? You can do it without anybody even noticing, really.
Yeah.
So there are all these moments in the day where you can do informal practice.
Right. And what,
But there's nothing like dedicating 20 minutes a day to doing something.
Right.
And you know, the old texts used to say 100 days of practice to get what I would call an energetic breakthrough.
Mhm.
Wow.
And you know, if you're interested in a 100-day practice, I have some friends in Boston, colleagues, and they run a Facebook group, the 100-day practice. We just finished a 100-day practice. There's no teaching in it. It's just a support group to help people stay on track and go through their 100 days. You know, one of my teachers says, you do it, you're going to get it. But if you don't do it, you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
You have to think about Qigong as more than exercise. That's the other thing.
Right.
It's more than exercise. It's exercise with energy, with Qi.
Right.
It's not like what people do at the gym. I mean, I go to the gym. The gym has its value, but it's not the same. You know, you go to the gym, people are on the stationary bicycle, they're watching CNN, sometimes they're reading something at the same time, they've got their earpods in. That's not Qigong.
No.
Qigong is everything all at once. Body, mind, spirit. That's it.
Right. I appreciate that. And you hit on the thing about the people in the gym. I go in there and I see them, I do everything you said, as well as texting in between their reps.
Yeah.
And even that way, and I, like you, I don't, even if they were doing it the way that I would suggest they do it in the old school ways, it still wouldn't reach the level of Qigong or Tai Chi. But you're not putting your mind into your exercise, you're not feeling your body, you're not pushing it, doing anything that way, which is not, so it's not that total experience to happen. And that's the way we had to do if we really want to prepare for my sports, you had to really put that into us. They're getting something out of it.
There are people who go to the gym and they treat their training like Qigong. There are people who do that, but most people don't.
Right.
They're just trying to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a level of boredom there.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
Appreciate you joining us and sharing your wisdom. It's evident there's quite a bit there. Would love for people to engage with you. You know, we've got posted in the Zoom and over on the Facebook chat your website as well to reach out to you and find you. And it'll be, as Breck mentioned, it'll be in the replay show notes. And so we hope people engage with you. Hope you'll come back again, and appreciate you transferring that wisdom to us here, Sharon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great conversation. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank everyone that's following on social media. And if you didn't catch everything that Sharon Smith had to share with you today, please listen to the replay.
Bye, everybody.